Your patience is rewarded.
Tonight, 2 planeswalkers have been summoned to fight to the death. Both planeswalkers walk into the arena, but only one leaves with their sparks still ignited. The planeswalkers have chosen a commander to represent them and ensure their ability to lead through the blind eternities. Who will amass the greatest army and devastate the competition? Find out on Commander Duel!
WUBRG plays a swamp. Jay plays Windbrisk Heights, looking at the top 4 cards of his library and exiling one of them under Windbrisk Heights. The rest go to the bottom of the library. WUBRG plays a swamp and passes. Jay plays a thriving bluff, naming Plains. On turn 3, WUBRG plays a swamp, then casts Royal Assassin before passing the turn. Jay knows it's too early to fall behind and casts Knight of the White Orchid, searching for and putting a Plains onto the battlefield. He plays a mountain as his land for turn. He then taps 2 to cast Treasure Map before ending his turn. WUBRG plays a swamp. He then taps out and pays 6 life to cast his commander, Crick, son of Yawgmoth, then passes his turn. Jay plays a mountain. He taps 1 and 2 white to cast Kemba Ka Regent. For 1 mana, he casts Prying Blade, then passes turn. WUBRG untaps and plays a swamp. He taps 3 mana and pays 2 life to cast Cryptghast. Upon cast, Crick gets a +1/+1 counter. WUBRG can now not only pay life instead of black mana for his spells, but his swamps also tap for an additional black mana. He taps 2 swamps for 4 black mana and casts Erebos, God of the Dead. Crick gets an additional +1/+1 counter. He moves to combat and swings with a 4/4 Crick. Jay feels he has no good blocks and takes 4 commander damage. Crick has lifelink and gains WUBRG 4 life. At the end of turn, Jay taps 1 mana and Treasure Map to scry 1, keeping the card on top. Jay plays a mountain for turn. He taps out to cast Aurelia. Jay moves to combat. He swings with Aurelia for 3 damage. He then moves to his second combat phase from Aurelia's ability and swings with Aurelia again, for a total of 6 commander damage. WUBRG plays a swamp. He taps 3 swamps for 6 mana and pays 2 life to cast Butcher of Malakir, adding another +1/+1 counter to Crick. He then taps 5 mana to cast Infernal Offering. Crick gets another +1/+1 counter. WUBRG sacrifices Royal Assassin, and Jay sacrifices Knight of the White Orchid. Both players draw 2 cards. They then return the sacrificed creatures to the battlefield, as they don't have any additional creatures to return from the graveyard. Butcher of Malakir then triggers, and Jay sacrifices the Knight of the White Orchid once again. Moving to combat, WUBRG attacks with Erebos and Crick. Jay takes the damage, and WUBRG passes the turn. Jay untaps and scries with Treasure Map before drawing, bottoming the card. He draws for turn and casts All That Glitters on Aurelia, giving her an additional +3/+3. Jay casts Leonin Shikari, allowing him to equip at instant speed. Jay moves to combat and swings with Aurelia. WUBRG takes the damage. On the second combat step, the same attack is made, but WUBRG now blocks with Butcher of Malakir. Since Butcher of Malakir dies, Jay sacrifices Leonin Shikari to satisfy the death trigger. WUBRG taps 2 swamps for 4 black mana, using 3 of it to cast Big Game Hunter, destroying Aurelia and giving Crick another +1/+1 counter. With 1 mana floating, WUBRG taps another swamp to cast Corrosive Mentor, giving Crick another counter. Although his board is huge, he doesn't have enough damage for lethal. He casts Gonti, Lord of Luxury, to put another counter on Crick. He casts the card exiled from Gonti, Sunspear Shikari. In his combat phase, WUBRG attacks with Crick and Erebos. Jay takes the Erebos damage and blocks Crick. Jay scries on his upkeep and sends the card to the bottom, transforming Treasure Map and giving him 3 treasure tokens. Jay sacrifices the 3 treasure tokens and taps 4 lands to cast Gisela. He then passes. WUBRG untaps and casts Swift End on Gisela. With no blockers and enough damage on WUBRG's side for lethal, Jay concedes the game. In the best of 3 commander duel, Crick is leading Aurelia 1-0. If you're enjoying the video, please leave a like and comment. Now let's head to game 2. WUBRG wins the dice roll and goes first again. WUBRG plays a Crypt of Agadeem, which comes in tapped, and he passes the turn. Jay plays a Plains and taps it to cast Sigarda's Aid. WUBRG plays a Swamp and casts Orzhov Enforcer. Jay untaps and plays a Plains and then passes. WUBRG plays a Swamp, then casts Ayara First of Locthwain. Jay loses a life and WUBRG gains 1. He moves to combat and swings with the Enforcer for 1 damage. Jay plays a Mountain and taps out to cast Kemba before passing. WUBRG plays a Swamp and taps 4 mana to cast Liliana of the Dark Realms. WUBRG adds a Loyalty in order to search his library for a Swamp, revealing it and putting it into his hand. Jay untaps and plays a Field of Ruin as land for turn, but casts no spells, passing the turn. WUBRG untaps and plays a Swamp. He taps for 2 and casts Swiftfoot Boots. WUBRG adds another Loyalty to Liliana and searches for another Swamp to put in his hand. WUBRG doesn't attack and moves to end step. At the end of his turn, Jay flashes in Loxodon Warhammer and equips it to Kemba for free. During Jay's upkeep, Kemba triggers, creating a 2/2 white cat creature token. Jay plays Smoldering Spires, which comes in tapped, but he chooses Orzhov Enforcer for the enters the battlefield effect, making it so the Enforcer cannot block this turn. Jay swings at Liliana with Kemba, WUBRG blocks with Ayara, Jay gains 5 life, and 2 damage tramples over to Liliana. On his second main phase, Jay taps 4 to cast Mangara the Diplomat. WUBRG plays a Swamp. He uses the -3 ability on Liliana to give -5/-5 to Kemba. WUBRG taps 4 mana to cast Gonti. He looks at the top 4 cards of Jay's library, exiling 1 and sending the rest to the bottom of Jay's library. WUBRG casts the card exiled with Gonti, Dowsing Dagger. Jay creates 2 0/2 plant tokens. Casting Dowsing Dagger as the second spell this turn triggers Mangara, causing Jay to draw a card. Jay untaps and draws another card for turn. He plays Sunhome as his land for turn. He then taps out to cast Aurelia the Warleader. Jay moves to combat and swings with Aurelia both combat phases for 6 commander damage. WUBRG taps 5 mana and pays 2 life to cast Crick. He spends the last 2 mana equipping Gonti with Dowsing Dagger. He swings in combat with Gonti, and Jay wisely throws a plant token in front of Gonti. Jay untaps and plays a Mountain. He moves directly to combat, swinging with Aurelia. WUBRG can't block flying and declares no blocks. Before damage, Jay pays the activated cost of Sunhome to give Aurelia double strike until the end of turn. The pain isn't over, as Jay pays 1 to cast Colossus Hammer at instant speed and equipping it to Aurelia for a beefy +10/+10. This swing alone hits WUBRG for 26 commander damage, giving Jay a smooth and stylish victory. Before we move on to Game 3, let me know if you enjoy the best of 3 format in the comments below. The players roll, and Jay wins, choosing to go first. On turn 1, Jay plays a Temple of Triumph, keeping the card on top. WUBRG plays a Swamp. Jay plays a Mountain and passes turn. WUBRG plays a Swamp and casts Swiftfoot Boots. Jay plays a Plains. He casts Kemba for the 3rd time in this series. I can verify he shuffled and the deck was cut, but will Kemba be enough to lead Jay to victory? WUBRG plays a Swamp and passes. Jay casts Sanctuary Blade. He plays a Plains and casts Legion's Initiative. Jay moves to combat and swings with Kemba for 2 damage. He then passes the turn. WUBRG plays a Swamp. He taps out and pays 6 life to cast his commander Crick. Jay plays a Plains. He equips Sanctuary Blade to Kemba and names Protection from Black. He swings Kemba at WUBRG's life. WUBRG plays a Swamp. He casts Phyrexian Obliterator and adds a counter to Crick. He equips Swiftfoot Boots to the Obliterator. Moving to combat, he swings with Crick, healing his life total for 3. During Jay's upkeep, he makes a 2/2 white cat creature token from Kemba's ability. Jay then casts Indomitable Archangel. Jay swings with Kemba for another 4 damage. WUBRG untaps and plays a Swamp. He taps all of his mana and casts Dread. Crick gains a counter, and WUBRG passes the turn. Jay plays a Mountain. He taps 4 to cast Duretti Scrap Savant. He uses the +2 ability to discard 2 cards and draw 2 cards. WUBRG pays 4 life and taps 1 mana to cast Big Game Hunter, targeting Indomitable Archangel. Crick gains another counter. WUBRG taps 5 mana and pays 4 life to cast Overseer of the Damned. He destroys a cat creature token and makes his own 2/2 zombie token. He also adds a counter to Crick on cast. WUBRG enters combat and swings Phyrexian Obliterator and Crick at Jay. He sends Dread at Duretti. Because of the Fear ability, Dread cannot be blocked and Duretti dies. Jay blocks Crick with the pro-black Kemba, negating the life gain, and takes 5 from Phyrexian Obliterator. On upkeep, Jay creates another 2/2 white cat creature token. Jay casts Explorer Scope and equips it to Kemba. WUBRG plays a Swamp. He swings with Overseer of the Damned for 5 flying damage. On his second main phase, WUBRG casts Morbid Curiosity on the Overseer to draw 7 cards. WUBRG taps 4 mana and pays 2 life to cast Magus of the Coffers. He then ends the turn. On Jay's upkeep, he creates 2 2/2 white cat creature tokens. He then casts Aurelia and passes the turn. WUBRG plays a Swamp. He taps 3 mana for Gravestorm. He then moves to combat and swings with Dread. On second main phase, WUBRG taps out and casts Grey Merchant of Asphodel. He puts a counter on Crick and gains 18 life and drains 18 life from Jay. Jay moves to his upkeep and creates 2 more 2/2 white cat creature tokens. He draws hoping for a board wipe, but doesn't find it. He plays Sunhome as land for turn. He does some math on the board, but ultimately concedes the game, meaning that Crick takes 2 games out of 3. If you made it this far, please leave a comment on which decklist you preferred. I'd like to thank my current subscribers for their patience. Starting a new job during the current year has taken a lot of time from making videos over the last 3 weeks, but that doesn't mean I haven't been writing more exploration videos and filming paper magic content, so there's a lot more WUBRG headed your way. Please like and subscribe to help this video reach other MTG content seekers find my videos. Thank you as always, until next time.